Still part of Arkansas Tech Week here on the Spotlight, and our next guest has a title so long that I could not remember what it is. Cass Capan is next on the Spotlight. Welcome you into the Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week, presented by Alathus Realty Live. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668. You can cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. One of our fine agents is ready to guide you through the process of buying or selling your home. So give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668. As I mentioned at the top of this show, our next guest has a title so long that I was not even about to attempt to say it, but it's a very impressive title. I welcome in Cass Capan as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Cass, what is your title? What is your title?
Well, Drew, thanks for having me on the show.
Sure.
My title is Instructor Event Coordinator of the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Hospitality Administration. And we call ourselves PRA, we use the acronym, but yes, it's Department of Parks, Recreation, and Hospitality. So,
And when you say it, it sounds exactly the way that it's supposed to sound. But I struggled mentally with trying to get all of that out. So I'm glad that you cleared that up for us. Depending on when this airs, we have either already seen Susan West or we will see Susan West coming up in the next little bit of Tech Week. You guys, as I have been told, are peas in a pod. You guys are hilarious. So kind of walk me through this relationship you have with Susan West.
Well, I can say that Susan West is probably my hero. She's the person that really convinced me to originally apply for the position. I have a long history with tech, and she had said the department was hiring, and I was nervous, but she convinced me, and the rest is history. I've been there now 7 years, but we get along really well. We both know that we have to get out and we have to recruit students. We do a lot of events together. We are really immersed in the state. We have some great support. Arkansas Hospitality Association, ProStart is one of the competitions we judge. So I think we love what we do and we have fun together. And I don't know, I'm in the ultimate job because I get to go in there every day, and if I'm having a bad morning and she comes in, she brightens it, and it's vice versa. I think it's just she and I just are there for the same reason. We just love what we do.
And so let's talk about that. What is it that you do? Let's get into that.
Okay. Well, my primary job is event coordinator. So when we have Williamson, years ago we had a fire. It's under reconstruction. We're almost ready to move back in. Yay!
Right.
So excited. So on a normal day, people, campus community, organizations, our Russellville community can book an event, and so my students are my staff, so we go ahead and we do their event for them. It could be a buffet, it could be a banquet, it could be we do things like Founders Day for people, so it's really exciting. And so that's my primary job. And we also, one of my favorite events is we get to do what's called the Dobson Suite. It's the skybox for football games. And so
Nice.
students get to experience this, if you think about events, because I try to teach them, weddings are great, birthday parties, that social life events are great, but there's larger events. And so for them to be able to go into the skybox and just meet the people up there and serve the level of food we serve. It's really exciting. And so those are the events I do. That's, and then I teach. So I don't have a paid staff. My students are my staff. And so I always laugh because it seems like every semester it's like training a new crew.
Right.
But they always want to learn. They always want to help out. And that's what I like about my job, is that they can certainly apply what's being taught in class to the event we're actually executing. So
Arkansas Tech University has such a special place in West's heart. In fact, every instructor that I've spoken to so far has all said basically the same thing. I'm at Arkansas Tech because it's home and because I love it. What is your opinion on Arkansas Tech?
well, I'm at Arkansas Tech because I agree. It's home. I I I received my undergrad degree. I'm a college of business. I have a bachelor's of business administration, marketing management. Um, it's family. When I started, we only had 6,000 students, and now we have, what, 10,000 between all of our campuses. So to see that growth, but still feel that family community, that family culture is really exciting. I was walking around campus today, and of course, you're going to run into somebody, and they're like, "Hi, guys, how are you?" And,
Right.
and it's like you catch up because we don't always see each other, but it is home, and I think too the students understand that as well. We still have a small faculty to student ratio. The students, I think, come to us, especially in our department. This is what I experience in my
Right.
department. Um, they love to come and hang out in our offices and talk with us, and it's just talk about anything. I think, like, for me, uh, it's almost like a second parent. They just like to talk about what's happening with their lives, and when they're getting ready to graduate, what they're looking to internship in or career paths. So I just like tech because I'm allowed that opportunity, that to be able to connect with students, but also to be in a campus environment that other people have that same feeling.
We're going to get more into the how you got here
Uh,
in a little bit, but I do question now, too, some of the things that you have said. There's a true affinity in your voice for the students that you have. Why are you here?
Why am I here? Well, I think, again, we moved here and it was 19 years ago, and Arkansas Tech is a large employer, and I was fortunate to get a job there, and I moved up through the ranks at the library. I know that seems weird. I'm very loud. Why would I work at the library? And then was at the Small Business and Technology Development Center. And when I left tech to pursue my master's, Susan West was Sweat, as we call her, Swest, was a big person saying, come back to tech. Come back to tech. We have a perfect job for you. And when I got there, I was immersed in events, and I didn't have a class at the time. And when I started teaching, there was something about it. Something about talking to a student and having them apply that knowledge and seeing them grow as a human, because you see them when they just graduated high school, and then you see them as grow into this adult. It's really exciting. And that's why I'm there to help those students fine tune skills so that they can represent our department and our university and be this great hospitality leader.
In your years of teaching this and your years of participating in this program, is there a moment of, hilarity, a moment that was touching that really kind of sticks out to you?
There's a lot of hilarious moments. I think when you're doing events, it never goes
Yeah.
as planned. And I think one time in the dining room, a student accidentally spilled water on someone, and it was disastrous to her, and she started to cry. And I took her kind of behind the counter where no one could see her, and I just said, it happens. And it good thing is, it was only water. And if we were in a real life situation, you'd probably offer to dry clean. We're going to comp her meal. And she could laugh about it afterwards. as far as touching moments, you know, when you are able to help a student achieve something, and you know, recently a student needed some assistance just filling out an application for a scholarship,
Yeah.
and when he emailed me over the summer saying he actually received the scholarship, that was so touching because I know that's going to be such make a difference in his life. Like, we're going to see that student go places. And there's millions of those stories. I think afterwards too, when a student graduates and then reaches out to you and says, you know, I thank you for taking the time
Yeah.
with me, you know, and because of you and this class, I'm able to, you know, be promoted within my
Right.
business. So it's those are really moments. The reason why I go every day.
We are talking to Capan Housley from Arkansas Tech University. When we come back, we are going to talk about the how part of Cass's story. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this. More on the Spotlight right after this.
We see you. Your incredible potential and willpower set you apart. You're first to take that leap of faith. First to get to work. First to solve the problem. No burden should be carried alone. We'll be there. Every step, day, challenge. First is your destiny. We get it because first is who we are.
Back here on the Spotlight, presented by Olathes Realty Live. If you're in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. Don't forget, coming up on Friday morning, it's the Spotlight on KARV. That's AM 610 and 93.1 FM. Do not miss the Spotlight on Carve. It's right before Dial a Trade, so don't miss Dial a Trade. Don't miss the Spotlight. That's 8:30 on Carve, coming up Friday morning. We are talking to Capan Housley, easy for me to say, here on the Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech Week. We were talking before we got started today about how you got to where you are. And you know, you hear the stories of professors and instructors who, you know, say, well, I studied at Cambridge and abroad, or they have some kind of, you know, this elaborate academic story. But you're more my people. You're more my people. Walk me through it, because you had some stops along the way.
I did. I did. Well, I'm originally from New Jersey, and I was hoping that I maybe after this long would have some country twang. I guess I don't. I think the Jersey still comes out, the Jersey girl.
It does. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right, yeah.
I can't deny it. Okay.
Right.
So tried college, didn't work. So I think that's another connection to students. Like, I know some struggles. So when I came back from my first year of college, I just accepted a job for Borders Books and Music, which is like a Barnes and Noble, and I was their coffee manager.
Hastings for the people around
Oh
here.
yeah, Hastings. That was a
Hastings.
great shop.
Hastings,
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Borders was fairly new, and they were starting their westward expansion, and I like to go big or go home. And so they said we had a position. I applied for it and moved out to San Francisco at an early age, and became their coffee shop trainer. And I managed a coffee shop in my store, and my store was in San Rafael. And so I trained coffee managers, you know, up and down the California coast, and also we were in Washington State. And then I decided, you know, I wanted to take a break. Like, I wanted to just manage a coffee shop again. So I just transferred to our Sacramento store. And then, you know, you get to a point in your career and you're like, what do I do? I knew education. I wanted to finish my education. I was a little bit older. And I was fortunate I had stock options, and I was sort of looking for a new place to live. So I cashed the stocks in and decided to go with a friend of mine and visit national parks all over the country and camp. So I left actually September 7th, I think 1997. So it's almost the anniversary right now, a couple days yesterday. So while I was traveling, you know, we're visiting parks, and I ran into a group of guys, and there was three of these guys. We started talking, and and then I kept on with my travels. And so we ended up at my parents' home, and I got to spend holidays with them. And I decided when I met those guys, it was in Flagstaff, and I had some family friends there.
Mhm.
And Flagstaff has always been a place I wanted to live. And so I just relocated to Flagstaff, and about 6 months later ran into this guy who I'd met on the previous trip. And so he and I just started talking, and 3 months later we eloped in Vegas. Yeah, I'm not a big wedding, even though I plan events, weddings. So we eloped to Vegas, and then we lived in Flagstaff for about 4 years, and I was a coffee shop manager.
Was it the Elvis Chapel?
No, it was the little chapel by the courthouse.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So no Elvises.
We ran into Elvis.
Okay, you did run
Yeah,
into Elvis.
we have a picture actually. I'll have to share that with
Okay,
you.
nice.
Yeah,
Please,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it was on we were on the old strip, so it was So anyway, I think we got married about 10:45 in the morning.
How romantic.
Yes,
That's
and,
great.
And
that's
Vegas is only 4 hours away, and it was really low key. Like I can't handle like this is easy, but personal stuff like I wouldn't be able to stand there and say vows in front of anyone. I would be a mess. Like I would be crying. I mean, it is an emotional time.
Emotional in the sense of I would be, kind of overwhelmed with
Yes.
emotion. You should meet my wife in that sense, because she's got a dichotomy when it comes to that. On the one hand, when it came to our wedding, she was, I'm going to be an emotional wreck, and then also I have a hard time looking you in the face and not laughing, and so I kind of get that.
Yeah. No, I was an emotional wreck. Doug was very stoic. So we lived in Flagstaff. We had great jobs, and we were at the point in our life where we're like, okay, you want to go back to school, Cass? He wanted a business. Flagstaff's wonderful, but economically, it just we couldn't do it. We couldn't
Right.
purchase a home, and so we thought, let's get out the map. And I said, no, we need to go find a place that is affordable. And Doug's like, Arkansas, because he's from here. I've only been here, I think, once. I visited his family. That's my MO. Like, oh, I just see the place. I'll move there.
Right.
And so
This
we
looks
moved.
like a
Yeah,
place.
this looks like, hey,
Okay.
there's family. We'll make it work. We have. Anyway, so we moved here, and Doug had a job. He actually worked for the old Highlander Bicycles for Doug
Okay.
and Dave Stevens. And again, I got a job at Tech, and we were fortunate because I earned my undergraduate and my master's from a different university. He had a thriving business, Papa Wheelie's Bicycle Shop, and
Huh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember Papa
yeah,
Willie's.
yeah, that's Doug. Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, oh, now I made that
Okay.
connection.
The connection has been made now. I was like, Papa Willie's, got it. Yeah.
So when I saw him on his bicycle over, 24 years ago, it makes sense that
Yeah,
he would capture my eye. Yeah.
Right.
So we're here, and it's our home, and I mean I get to go to work every day and have a dream job. I'm in the kitchen. I get to coordinate events. I get to impact students' lives, and that's really exciting.
You said impact students' lives. There's a common thread of instructors that I've interviewed so far, be it professors, teachers, whomever. And I'll ask you this too. Is it necessary to have a heart for students to be a good educator?
Yes, it is. I mean, why are you there if you don't care about them? I mean, that's the reason why the university that's the founding of the university, is to give students the opportunity to earn a degree and to then represent the university in the world and show them what great education we have. If I didn't love the students, I shouldn't go to work. And if I didn't feel like I was making a difference, I shouldn't be in this line of work.
Now, I've not asked anybody this, but I'm drawing an interesting comparison. So I'll ask you this. When I was attending ministry school so many years ago, and yes, folks, I did at one point, this was a quote that was given to me. If you're not close enough to the people that you are ministering to, that they can't break your heart, then you're not close enough. Now, I know that there would have to be some professional barriers, obviously, between teacher and student, but would you also say that their success and their failures at times can be personal?
Yeah, they are. I think you're watching them navigate a system, and this is what Susan West is really good at. When I have intro kids, I forget they just graduated. They just left mom and dad. They come to me, and expectations I have are a little different. And so you kind of have to understand their struggles. You have to give them a little grace too, because this is new to them. And as they mature through, and when I see them at my upper level course, I see the change, but their life might too have taken some challenges as well. So I we do see it. We do see it. We do see it when a student has to leave for a semester because of something happening at home.
Right.
We do see it when they've had their heart set on a specific job or internship, and they don't get it. But that we explain to them that that's life, and sometimes it does hurt, and we go through those heartbreaks with them because I think we're so close, and they share a lot with us. The students I deal with are very comfortable. I'm with them. The stuff we talk about, I mean, it's education. I mean, I'm teaching them while we're in the kitchen, but we're in there for long hours. They're very comfortable with sharing their lives. And I mean, I think that's how you can better teach them, because
Right.
you understand the base. You understand if they've had a hardship, or if they've, been that great student, and now that maybe they're struggling because they're not that great student.
Right.
Like, they're not in the spotlight. So you have to be. If you don't understand the student, I don't know if you can have an impact.
That's an interesting point. The instructors that made the biggest impact on my life were the ones who could relate to me on a level that was that far superseded the material that we were discussing. I honestly believe that there are three people in the world that can walk on water. That was Jesus, Peter, and Pete Kelly. I just believe that, and that was for that same kind of reason. So I'm interested in that. We're talking to Cass, Cape, and Haley here on the Spotlight as part of Arkansas Tech University Week. If you are interested in buying or selling your home, give us a call today at 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to RussellvilleLiving.com. If you're checking out this Spotlight because it's Arkansas Tech Week and you're a prospective Arkansas Tech student, cruise on over to www.atu.edu for more information about all of the programs available to you at Arkansas Tech University. And that brings you back into this conversation. There are a lot of prospective students who are going to be watching this. I'm going to make sure of that. That's the whole reason we're doing this. For a prospective student, why should they come here?
Why should they come? I'm going to tote the horn for our program. I feel like the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Hospitality is probably one of the most marketable degrees when you leave the university. Again, we are Parks and Rec, so the student gets a degree in Recreation and Park Administration, but they also can get a degree, Bachelor's of Science in Hospitality Administration. If you've ever been to a state park in Arkansas, you've probably met one of our alumni. As far as hospitality administration, if you want to work for a chamber of commerce, if you want to manage a hotel, if you want to manage a restaurant, be an event planner, work for an event venue. We have students all over the state. We have some in Fayetteville with their chamber, and Experience Fayetteville, North Little Rock Chamber of Commerce, Benton, the city of Benton. It's a very applied learning as well. Students nowadays want to be immersed in learning, and just being online or listening to a lecture, is not for you, come to our program. We are very hands-on. The students in my classes, they are in the kitchen, they're setting up tables, they're organizing and designing, they do a tablescape. I mean, there's so many things that they do. And we have other coursework too, facility designs, where they take a room and they have to design a hotel room. Cool. And they have a certain budget. We have guest service, where they learn, front of the house management. We have advanced food, where they learn back of the house management. Meetings and conventions, where they're planning a big career day. So any coursework we do on the hospitality side and the RP side is hands-on applied learning. And so that's what I want to say. And if you want to eat you're going to eat a lot of food. If you want to be outside, our RP people, we go outside. If you want to be surrounded by kids who are just as passionate about hospitality and you have that service heart, this is the program department for you.
Take me back to maybe 10 or 15-year-old Cass. Did you see yourself doing something like this back then?
Probably not teaching. I could see myself owning a restaurant. I was encouraged at a young age to cook. My parents saw it. My mom bought me the Betty Crocker Jr. cookbook.
Right.
I had an apron. It was probably as soon as I could stand, she allowed, with guidance, for me to cook. And I mean, we were latchkey kids. I know no one really knows that, but my parents worked, and so
Right.
we walked to school. I'm not going to say up a hill in the snow, but we did walk.
But there was snow and there were hills, right?
And I think what was so exciting is I would come home and be like, "Mom, oh my gosh, the kids at school had no idea what they had for lunch," and I knew exactly. Like, I planned it. I'd have whatever soup in my thermos and all the little things I wanted to eat. And I think they saw that passion and encouraged it. And I think 10-year-old Cass would have probably said, "Yeah, I want to have my own restaurant. I want to have it."
For
Hey,
the-
it could happen.
It still can. It still can. For the folks who may be moving to the Russellville area, walk me through why they should move here.
Why they should move to Russellville?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's beautiful. Like, I mean, have you heard of the Arkansas Monument Trails at Nebo? We
Yeah.
have world-class mountain biking, and the hiking at Nebo are wonderful.
Mayor Harris was on a couple weeks ago talking about that.
Yeah. I mean, and all over the state. And I think moving to Russellville, we have a lot of employment opportunity. There's a lot of community events that people get involved in that Main Street and the Chamber organize. We have a beautiful lake. If they have children who want to attend a university, we have one right here, Arkansas Tech. I think the family-friendly atmosphere of Russellville. I know a lot of my friends who are really happy to be raising their children here.
Yeah.
The school systems are really well known. I don't have children, so but I know it's a safe. I love my neighborhood. We live in a neighborhood with all retired tech faculty, and I love nosy neighbor older ladies who get into your business, and I feel safe. Like, I love it that we have a block party around Christmas time. I mean, so for me, I think I've found sense of community in Russellville because I've moved around so much,
Right.
and I think if people want to relocate, there's this sense of community here.
Outstanding. Cass, Capan, Housley. Can we do this again sometime?
Yeah, anytime.
All right.
You can bring my friend Swess too.
Oh, can we imagine the interview that would happen if we got the both of you in here? It would be 5 hours long, I think. But it'd be a lot of fun.
It would, yeah.
Be a lot of
You
fun.
might have to bring snacks,
Is that a part of the deal?
Yeah.
Y'all
I
can be.
should have brought snacks. I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking.
Yes, you
Okay.
100% should have done that. Thanks so much for being on the Spotlight. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's Cass, Capan, Housley as part of Arkansas Tech Week right here on the Spotlight.
We see you. Your incredible potential and willpower set you apart. You're first to take that leap of faith. First to get to work. First to solve the problem. No burden should be carried alone. We'll be there. Every step, day, challenge. First is your destiny. We get it because first is who we are.
Welcome back to Tech Week presented by Alathus Realty. If you are in the market to buy or sell your home, give us a call today. It's 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. One of our fine agents is always ready, willing, and able to serve you in every real estate capacity. Give us a call today, 968-5668. I welcome in Dr. Daniel Belangia as part of Arkansas Tech Week. Dr. Belangia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
This is an honor for me, and I will tell you why it's an honor for me. As I did some background on your bio, you have been everywhere. There are all kinds of different experiences that you bring to Arkansas Tech University. Let's walk through it. How did you get here from where you are right now? How'd you get here?
Well, I got here because, in short, I was very fortunate. I've known about the band program at Arkansas Tech University as long as I can remember. Hal Cooper is a hero of mine, and I knew about Gene Witherspoon before him as a student of the band profession.
Wow.
My teachers and my heroes respected Hal Cooper and Gene Witherspoon, and that's why I knew about Arkansas Tech. So when this position came open, I was eager for it for many reasons. Arkansas Tech is a band institution. It has been for many, many years. It's been a fine school of music outside and larger than the band program for many, many years. And in particular, in 2015, when I came, my family was very young, and Russellville was very, very attractive to us at the time as well.
Let's touch on that a little bit. We're clearly a real estate company.
Yeah.
What made Russellville attractive to you at that time?
Well, everything, honestly. Everything except the tarantulas. I remember.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember calling my wife and I said, I have some bad news. There are tarantulas here, and I think I really want this job when I was here for the interview. And she had a great sense of humor about it. Our children were 6, 4, and 3 at the time. We were looking for a place with fantastic public schools where we could raise them in a community where they were safe, where we had neighbors that we knew we could trust. Where they would grow up in a band environment of their own in middle school, junior high, and high school that would provide the kinds of opportunities that I was fortunate to have, and my wife, who's also a musician, and Russellville's all those things.
Revisiting what you were talking about, you have very young children when you got here in 2015. You talked about the school system. I'm interested in work-life balance for you as somebody who is always very busy, clearly in the music department. You've got 3 children, and Russellville has just a myriad of opportunities to go and do things. How do you balance all of it?
Very carefully.
Right.
It's a work in progress, no doubt. Like many men that I know, I would compete with them for most fortunate spouse on earth.
Yeah.
We have a Sunday afternoon ritual where we lay out the week, including the meal plans and how the slow cooker is going to work and how we're going to get through balancing at this point. She was 6 when we moved here, but she's 13 now.
Right.
Jenny's a Nobel player. She's a swimmer. She's a pianist. She's in school, and she needs some time to be a 13-year-old at home as well. Our 11-year-old is a little budding bassoonist and is a soccer player. My son, the youngest, is 10. He's a soccer player as well. So we're always coming and going, dropping off, picking up, doing the mom and dad thing. And last summer, we were very, very, very fortunate. My mother retired and moved into town as well. And so now we have grandmother reinforcement, and she's an angel and helps us out every way she can.
We also have grandmother reinforcement. Our family does. And is that not just the best?
We went 12 years without it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. My wife from Florida. We've been teaching in Texas, Michigan, Illinois, Arkansas, nowhere where we had any grandparent reinforcement. So we know exactly how fortunate we are now that we have. My children call her Bama. Nothing to do with the sports teams. My Jenny just couldn't say grandma when she was younger, and she said Bama. And my mother said, I love that. That's sticking. I want to be Bama now. So we know how fortunate we are.
You talked about growing up in Wisconsin.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay, so you're a Midwestern guy. But you talk about being an admirer of Hal Cooper.
Yeah.
How were you introduced to Arkansas Tech?
Well, I suppose there's 2 variables in that equation. One is that a student of the band world, Mr. Cooper actually calls it the band waves, a clever kind of a pun. It's a small world. And then his reputation is huge. So there's 2 variables that cause that to happen. Mr. Cooper is a truly nationally known conductor and educator. And our profession is one that there's not a lot of those. And so the ones that are well known, and especially for us young folks coming up at a time when I was young, we knew who the people to pay attention were.
Talk about let me word it like this. In a profession that is so dictated by skill and practice and, also God-given talent. I'm going to stop here because I want to phrase that differently. With a profession that is so based on God-given talent and practice and that sort of thing, do you find that students have a more difficult time in their balance in as far as trying to perfect their craft while also maintaining the life of a student?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect answer. Yes.
It's just truly difficult. It really is difficult. We all have this necessary voice in our ear telling us that we're not working hard enough. Mm-hmm. That somebody out there, we've all seen the poster, whether it's about sports or music or whatever in your career, somebody's out there, they're working harder than you are. And when the time comes, they're going to beat you.
Right.
And successful people have that voice in their ear. Successful people learn how to turn it down also. And in particular, musicians, I've been fortunate to know a lot of very talented musicians. Some of them aren't able to turn it down. You do have to have a Saturday evening away. You do have to put the instrument in the case and step back. You do have to understand that I've done my good work today, and that's enough in order to have a work-life balance. We kid here, no offense, but if you don't, eventually real estate's going to look real good to you. Eventually, yes. You're going to understand that this nasty voice in your head that you're not the world's best clarinet player right now is going to turn the whole adventure sour. And someone's going to call, and you can see that, you can make more money maybe.
Sure.
You can work as hard as you want. I mean, I'm sure there are realtors that face the same dilemma, no doubt about it. But in some cases, there are going to be an opportunity where it's going to seem like a happier life unless you found a way to balance the positive aspect of that drive and that questioning whether or not we've worked hard enough with the part of it that can be negative.
I want to circle back to something that you said because I find that very interesting. I had the opportunity to interview Clay Hooton over at Dardanelle.
Okay.
And we get to speak every Friday as part of Dardanelle football broadcasts that I get to be a part of. I made the comparison to him a couple of weeks ago about athletics and band practice in the summer. And in a lot of ways, when you look from a very objective point of view, the two are very, very similar. You have hot weather that you're marching in. Sure. You have a particular craft that you have to master, a particular technique. And yet there's always a little bit more of an emphasis on the football two-a-days. But I'm watching these band folks just absolutely kill themselves for their craft. Is there a little bit of a motivating factor as far as competing with some other clubs on campus for maybe not attention, but for recognition?
I don't know if I'd use that phrase, but I think to the heart of your question, I think there are absolutely comparisons between what a first-class athlete's trying to do and what a first-class musicians were trying to do. I was involved in a podcast recently, and the person asked me, if I wasn't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing? And I said, coach. And the person said they were surprised. But actually, when the podcast ended, we talked about it a little bit more. I said, why are you surprised? They're very similar, actually. There is talent in a trumpet player. There's talent in a linebacker. There's talent in a defensive back. There's talent in a point guard. There's inherent, they call it basketball knowledge. Sure. A person that can see the court and anticipate plays, similar to a chess player, similar to the way an oboe player can participate in the performance of a Beethoven symphony and understand what's happening 2-3 steps ahead of time. I often use comparisons to world-class quarterbacking with my musicians because we've got tomorrow in my rehearsal with Symphonic Wind Ensemble, I'll be looking at a score with 34 lines of music, 34 staves, 34 individual musicians and their responsibilities. At a very good level, a performer will come in and they're going to know how to play their one line of that 34. At the professional level, at the level to which we're striving at Arkansas Tech, that person knows their line and the other 33. just like the way Peyton Manning not only knows his offense, he knows the defense they're playing against him. And we've seen some of those YouTube videos where every once in a while Peyton Manning tells a linebacker he's lined up wrong.
Yes.
Right before he burns him.
Right, exactly.
Right before he burns him. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. And that's what professional musicians do. You said a word a moment ago, practice. And we use the word rehearsal in bandom. And at times, maybe it just sounds like we're being a bit arrogant. But I've tried to draw a very clear line in the sand with our students. It's not an arrogance thing. One's not better than the other. But for us, practice is individual. I've got to learn my notes and rhythms, my trumpet part to play a role in the Mahler symphony we're about to perform. I do that individually in practice. That's an alone activity. Rehearsal only happens in a group. And rehearsal is where I learn the other 33 lines, while contributing what I've learned individually at home in my practice to the whole, so the other 33 can learn my contribution. Then we have this fluid conversational relationship that's grounded by the piece of music that we're performing, and then it becomes really fun.
I love the idea, maybe not so much of a semantics, so much as semantics, but more of a, this is an idea that you need to get into your head of practice versus rehearsal.
Right.
I'd never thought of it that way. I'd like to also circle back to something that you said too. You're looking for those world-class musicians. You're trying to craft those world-class musicians. I am an amateur musician at very, very best. I have to work very hard to be a novice, quite frankly. And there are those musicians that I listen to that I have a duality of a reaction. And that reaction is, my God, I want to practice more to be like them. And also I want to quit music forever. Is that fairly common in musicians?
Of course. And the more into the world you get, the more you realize that person you were just thinking about, they have that as well for somebody else. There's no finish line. Every hero of mine has their own heroes that they're trying to be. Yoda, for me, when I was in undergrad, was a person named Gary Green, and my students hear about all the time. We've been very fortunate to bring to Arkansas Tech recently. And in 1993, it hit me that I wanted to be Gary Green when I grew up. And I'm still trying to be Gary Green when I grow up. And he's become a father figure to me. I know him as well as many of my family members and we've had many long evenings to talk. And now I know who his heroes are as well. And the people that he's always looked at and thought, my gosh, if I could just be any bit as talented or influential or successful as them, what a life that would be. And for me, circling all the way back to the beginning, Mr. Green was the third in a line of 4 of those that impacted my life greatly. Going all the way back to middle school, a man named Ken Wheely, who I wanted to be when I grew up. Right. And then in high school, a man named Al Sabo, who I wanted to be when I grew up. In undergrad and my master's degree, Mr. Green. And at the doctoral level in Michigan, a person named John Whitwell. So, we don't see him quite so often anymore, but there was the WWJD bracelets that people would wear. I've often kidded that I just need a WW, all those people's initials, D. And if I make mistakes, then I've just forgotten to consult with the masters.
So you said in middle school you had your hero of middle school for music, and then onward into high school, and then your undergrad, and then at the doctoral level. I'm curious, from an early age, this is something you knew from pretty much the beginning you wanted to do?
No.
Okay.
I admired those people, but my path was pretty windy to get here. From 7th grade, Mr. Wheely, Wiele, Ken, said to me, you're going to be a really good band director someday. And I rejected it for as long as I could. I started my undergrad degree as a music engineering major. I was taking a lot of science and math and physics and calculus in high school. And I had this idea of what a music teacher's life was, and I didn't think I wanted that. So at the University of Miami, I attended that school because there were only just a handful of institutions in America that offered this degree. It was a combination of music and science that I thought, okay, this is going to be perfect for me. It wasn't. And I think it was my fate to be a music teacher. I can't imagine really, I can say maybe I'd be a coach if I wasn't what I am now, but I can't still quite see it. So I think I spent a little time bucking against maybe what was to be, but I got there in time.
What were you thinking about as far as sound engineer, sound producer, record producer, things of that sort? Or were you really just pushing back against the idea of doing this?
I think it was that second thing. You know, I was 17, 18 years old, and I was from southeastern Wisconsin, and we probably got a brochure from Coral Gables, Miami in about February, when it was gray and slushy and cold, and everybody was wearing 3 layers of clothes, and there were palm trees on the brochure.
Right.
And I thought, let's do that.
Yeah.
This has just enough of a legitimate reason behind the music and the science rationale that I'll sell it to mom and dad. But they're offering me a nice scholarship. Let's go to Miami.
Were your parents musical at all?
They were. My mother actually had the same high school band director that I did, named Al Sabo. She was in his first high school class, and then he stayed there for many years. So he got to be my band director. I got to be his student as well. My father, band didn't take with him, but he was always involved in drama and music theater, and he has an incredible singing voice. I didn't inherit it. His father sounds like Bing Crosby.
Outstanding.
Rest in peace. But his father sounded just like Bing Crosby, and my dad, to this day, is a heck of a singer. Doesn't perform quite as much as he used to, but a chunk of my childhood was spent backstage at his performances in local and regional theater, and he made some commercials and appeared in a few movies here and there, and then he hung it up.
And so what does Christmas look like in the midst of a musical, performance-driven family?
Oh, I'm sure it looks pretty similar to everybody else. You know, presents and trees and overeating and lots of, maybe a little more variety than others in terms of our music choices, but probably not. You know, we're still, speaking of Bing Crosby, you know, we're still playing the same Nat King Cole standards.
Right.
I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas is just, you know, still the world champ as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that and Mariah Carey pretty much.
Pretty much. I can, if you put me on a deserted island, I'll take hippopotamuses. No offense, Mariah, but maybe that's me just being a little whimsical these days, and having, you know, younger children around for Christmas these last few years is a magical time, of course.
You mentioned too that if you hadn't been doing this, you thought maybe coaching. Is there a specific sport that you participated in, or a sport that you really like?
I would be a football coach. I think I would be a football coach. I don't know as much about the others. I've been fortunate to be friends with a lot of football coaches. It's my 17th year of university band teaching, and as an athletic band director, you know, the marching band, the pep bands, basketball bands, call them athletic bands. I've been fortunate to ride on planes with Larry Coker and the University of Miami football team to the Fiesta Bowl to play Ohio State. When I was helping with the band at Miami, I've been fortunate to take the plane with Illinois State to play Marshall, along with my friends on the coaching staff. The environment of it, the breaking down of the team into offense, defense, linebackers, defensive backs, special teams, the meeting rooms, the dissection of everything and building strategies is, to me, very similar to what we do in terms, especially, of an athletic band situation where we have percussion and we have woodwinds and we have brass and we have color guard and we have twirlers, we have conductors, we've got a football field. We need help in order to manifest it all. I think I'd be a football coach.
I talked to Kyle Shipp in an interview a couple of months ago, and we talked about the game day environment and all of the moving parts and variables that takes to create that game day environment. And he was particularly complimentary of our cheer squads and our band. And, you know, it's one of those things where I've been around, I was a sports reporter for 17 years, so I saw all of it together, but you don't really think about the behind the scenes relationships between band directors and coaches. It's not something that you, I think, normally put together. Elaborate on that a little bit. What can you discuss? What's the conversation like?
Well, again, I think we have a lot in common. Our paths have been very different, of course. But back at Illinois State, Denver Johnson was the first head coach when I was there. He played trombone in his high school band. Growing up, I played a little bit of football. So he turned that into part of his pep band speeches. He used to say, you got a band man running a football team, you got a football man running the band, we can't lose.
Right.
Exactly. And he loved the fact that I understood what a false start penalty was. I understood what 3rd and 1 meant. I understood if we were on offense backed up in the end zone near the band, maybe how we might try to be a little bit more quiet rather than when it was the opposite. This is important for
Right.
someone that's going to run a high school, junior high, or university level athletic band. Beyond that, in the ways that we've talked about before, I think there are a lot of similarities. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're dealing with high expectations, hopefully, right? If you're in a place with low expectations, well, let's move on,
Right.
right? And at Arkansas Tech, the expectation on the band is high. At Illinois State, it was high. The football programs in both places, the expectation is high. So the head coach and the director of bands understand that, having lived through it together. There are times when those folks aren't able to communicate very well, unfortunately.
Sure.
But I've been, not in my career, I've been very, very successful. The football coaches at Illinois State and Arkansas Tech University, I said successful. I meant fortunate that they've all been very intuitive human beings that understood that with just a kind of bit of effort like Kyle showed last week, just to mention that thing, how much that means to those band students that aren't on a scholarship,
Mhm.
that are out there not with a cooling fan next to them on the sideline,
Right.
that don't have quite as many supportive pieces of material that some of the athletic areas enjoy, but are the most passionate fans on campus that are yelling and screaming, and the most excited students in the community, even maybe when the team does well.
Tell me a little bit about our music department at Arkansas Tech. What are our strengths?
The strengths of our music department are the human beings, and I don't
Good
mean
answer.
yeah,
That's-
and I started to say I don't mean to sound like a cat poster
Right.
there, but it truly is. We're a small department. Every faculty member is involved in multiple roles and capacities with each student's matriculation and success. And human beings are the faculty, and they are the students. We are constantly reminded how fortunate and extraordinary our students are. Just yesterday, I was able to share with some of our current students an example with them that I wanted to tell them, you know what, thank you again for what you're doing. By the time this airs, this will be in the rear view, but today's September 9th. On Saturday, September 11th, the mayor is hosting a 20th anniversary of September 11th event.
Right.
And Mayor Harris called last week and asked me if we could have a musical presence. And I was honored that he would think of us. It's a little last minute. Usually I'm going to give these students months before we have a required performance. But I went to those symphonic wind ensemble students of ours, the 61 students that are in the premier concert performing group, and asked them if they could make time for this. And they've all done it. They've all done it. They understood the gravity of the situation. Of course, respect the 20th anniversary of September 11th. They understand how important it is that if the mayor calls, that we're able to contribute in some way. And that's not everywhere. So our students come from special places in their junior highs and high schools that in many ways were created because their directors came out of Arkansas Tech from Hal Cooper.
Right.
And Hal Cooper instilled in those Arkansas Tech students the kind of values that they've brought to their teaching and their careers at junior high and high school levels. And then now those young students have looked up to those teachers in those junior highs and high schools. And they've had a similar experience to when I said, I want to be Mr. Wheelie and Mr. Sabo when I grow up.
Right.
They say, well, I want to be Mr. Dove. I want to be Mr. Hart. I want to be Mr. Hooten. I want to be Mr. Smith. I want to be Mr. Brody. I want to be Mr. Blasdell. I want to be Mr. Schultz. Forgive me, any high school band director that I'm leaving off the list. And they ask those people, how did you become you? Just like I did Mr. Sabo and Mr. Green. And not every one of those names that I mentioned went to Arkansas Tech, but a lot of them did. And even the ones that didn't, part of my responsibility is to maintain our reputation, that even those that went to other schools know that, students that come to Arkansas Tech and work hard are successful.
We had, as of this recording, now this airs a few weeks from the time that this is recording, TV magic, folks. But just a few days ago, we had Mayor, as of this recording, yesterday, we had Mayor Harris in talking about the 20th anniversary of September the 11th, and how complimentary he was of the Arkansas Tech Music Department and the community synergy, and how thankful he was that we have a great relationship between city and university, and then also he can call at a moment's notice and say, hey, can you get this together? He was very complimentary of that. When you hear things like that, is it even more of a motivating factor to continue to do what you do?
Of course, of course. And it's the right thing.
Right.
Yeah, we have to walk the walk as often as we possibly can. There's a teacher-student relationship that in many ways is dissimilar to a father-son, mother-daughter relationship. But there are some ways where there's a line to be drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And with your own children in your home, you don't often want to say, do what I say, not what I do.
Right.
And as an educator, we're asking these young students who are training to be junior high and high school band directors, we're asking them to remember that when they go to their community, when they're hired, when a town in Arkansas asks them to come and be the band director, they have their own ideas of what they want to do and build and grow, and maybe ideas of experiences that they want the students to have. Maybe they're out of town. Maybe they're fancy national or even international events that they want to participate in. And those are fantastic. They may be the most musically significant of those students' careers. But if when the town calls you and says, can you appear at the Veterans Day Parade, and you say, I'm too busy, that's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. It doesn't matter how many fancy trophies you earn out of town. If in town, when they say, we need you at the 4th of July, and you say, we can't do it, eventually your community is not going to perceive that your program is successful. They want to see you at the ice cream social event in the town park. They want to see you at the Veterans Day Parade. They want to see you at a September 11th commemorative event. I truly am grateful that Mayor Harris thought of us and honored that we can participate in it on Saturday morning.
I want to talk a little bit about your performance background, because not only are you the professor of music and the director of bands, but according to your biography and to some audio recordings that I was able to dig up on the internet, you're quite the musician yourself. Walk me through some of your performance art.
Well, thank you. In my youth, I was a trombone player.
Mm-hmm.
I was a trombone player, and I was fortunate to have opportunities to play in places really a kid from a small town in Wisconsin I wouldn't have dreamed, and they were just circumstantial opportunities. So at a relatively young age, I realized my real day-to-day musicianship was going to manifest itself through education and conducting. And you said work-life balance. There are 24 hours a day. These days I refer to myself as an owner of trombones more than a player of trombones,
right?
Because that's a more accurate description. The second one would be a bit misleading because I just don't play it all that often.
Right.
And then you get into catch-22 because it's been now so long since I've practiced. When I do, I sound so bad that I just want to get away from that bad trombone player. So it goes back in the case pretty quickly.
Right.
But in my youth, I was able to perform in some environments that were really successful, and because I was surrounded with people so much more talented than myself. Led by Mr. Green at the University of Miami, and the Frost School is just a cradle of incredible musicians. When I was there, especially in the early and middle '90s, the jazz program was so successful that traveling groups like Maynard Ferguson and Harry Connick would usually just come in and just pick players up, and they all of a sudden I'm not in school anymore. I got a job. I'm on the road.
Wow.
I had a musician a roommate musician when I was a master's student that had to move out on us because he became a professional drummer at the time with a group called the Juliana Hatfield 3, which had about one hit in the mid '90s, but when that fell apart, became the drum set player for Alice Cooper and Chris Cornell.
Wow.
And Marilyn Manson, and now he's the drummer for Cher in Vegas, and Jason has boots in glass cases in the Paris, France Hard Rock restaurant. Jason's become that person. So he played in our wind band as well as the jazz ensemble before becoming who he's become. Colleagues of mine are internationally known composers now, professional players all over the world. Our former colleague, Jim Daughters, brought an old friend of his who is a trumpet professor at the University of North Texas, which is one of the finest schools of music in the world, to Arkansas Tech just a couple of years ago. And she and I looked at each other for a minute and did one of these, wait a minute, And we realized 20 years ago, we had been in a brass ensemble that performed together all over the country and had opportunities to perform. At my 21st birthday, we played at the Hollywood Bowl in LA.
Wow.
And played in Canada and across the United States, including in Alice Tully Hall in New York City and Symphony Hall in Chicago and amazing places like Aspen and Wolf Trap because of that lucky opportunity for me to become a brass player in that group.
2 quick questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Dr. Belangia, the first. Being a Midwestern Wisconsin guy, also a football guy, I'm assuming you're a Packers fan, but I could be wrong.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Okay, well, we won't hold that against you. The second
come on.
question: we've got a lot of prospective students that I hope are watching this right now. That's who this is made for.
Right.
If they're looking at Arkansas Tech University and they're in music right now, why should they come here?
Well, I'm not sure they should. I think we have a lot of great institutions that are in Arkansas, and now I want them to. Mm-hmm. I want every student that finds that they believe that Arkansas Tech would be a good home for them, want them to come here. And my job is to do everything I can to make it possible for them to come here, whether that's finances or access to preparation for auditions or help along the way. So, don't get me wrong when I say I'm not sure that they should, but what I hope is clear is what I mean, that you got to find a place where you feel that it's a fit.
Right.
We talked a little bit about football. We could talk about Auriemma at UConn, the very, very famous women's basketball coach.
Auriemma.
Right. I saw an interview with him once, and the interviewer asked him how he managed to still recruit the best high school basketball players in the world to come to UConn, because the reputation is out there that he's tough on them in practice. The interviewer said, Coach, everybody knows you're kind of mean even sometimes. And I'm fascinated. Why do you think the best players still choose to come, even though they know that you can be tough and maybe even a little bit mean? And he contemplated that question for a minute, and he said, we just tell them right out of the chute that if you want to go someplace where it's easier, there's 150 other institutions where you could go. If you want to come to a place where we're going to push you to get better, that's this place. And he said it boils down for him that the definition of coach was that when you tell me you don't have any more in the tank, I don't accept it. Otherwise, why am I here? He said, if you tell me I've shot 35 free throws today, that's all I can do. And I say, okay, why am I here?
Right.
I'm advocating my responsibilities. If you run 10 laps and that's all I can do, and I say, okay, you might as well be in a gym alone. He said, my perception of my job is at times to not accept what you tell me is the best that you've got until we're sure we can find it. Now, I'm not particularly tough like Gino Auriemma or anything like that, but that message resonated with me in regard to how, again, athletes, maybe there's a correlation to musicians, have to find a place where they feel like this is where I can thrive. And there are particular characteristics of Arkansas Tech University that I think are great, and that I think a lot of students that have a career dream, our institution can help them. And we've done a little work recently to document that. Recent graduates are now all over the United States as performers. Recent graduates are now all over Arkansas and in the United States as educators. If a student and their family comes to me and they say, this is where I hope I am in 10 years, then we can demonstrate how this institution can help you get there. College is like a key to a lock. You need to earn the key that unlocks the door that you want to open. There are some paths that if a student said, we want to do this, there might be another institution that'd be a better fit. But the most important thing, again, speaking directly to who that student might be right now, is come to campus sometime. We host events all the time. On November 6th this fall, the football game we call Member for a Day happens. This is an opportunity for any Arkansas high school student that wants to come, or junior high even, wants to come and be part of the marching band at Arkansas Tech for a Saturday. We'll show you exactly how it all works. You can get an opportunity to perform in the stands and on the field at Arkansas Tech game day, meet a lot of the current students, let them tell you what their experience is like here at Arkansas Tech. And when you go home, you'll have an idea of whether this feels like a place that you want to call home for a short undergraduate window of your life, but then in retrospect, forever.
Right.
Mr. Green is still my teacher. Even though I graduated undergraduate a long time ago, he's still my teacher. And I was texting with a former student just before we began this today, because I'm still going to be in her life and proud and advocating for her success and opportunities for as long as I can. So the first step for any student exploring any universities, come onto campus, talk to some people, meet some faculty, experience what you can, and then see how you feel about it.
I want to just circle back very quickly to something that you said a few minutes ago. You were talking about Gino Auriemma.
Yep.
Nick Saban, in his recruiting strategy, when he goes into a recruit's house, he takes out 6 or 7 national championship rings, however many he has now, and he sets them on the table, and he looks at the recruit, and he says, we're the best, and it's not easy to be here. You can go here, or you can go where it's easy.
Right.
And that resonates with me. I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, I bet Auriemma, there's a similar number of rings.
Certainly.
There.
Yeah.
They went 3 seasons, I think, without losing a game at UConn basketball. I've another Saban that I've heard that I've liked a lot is he talks about the power of and versus but. Have you heard this?
I have.
Yeah, and every student needs to consider that. In this context, he's talking about football players' attributes, but let's just say it's a 3.9 GPA and in lots of clubs, and they volunteer at their church, and they're the most pleasant person, and they're the most helpful person, and they're popular with their colleagues in school.
Right.
As opposed to the other one that is, but they're not. But maybe they're a little bit difficult. But maybe they're a little bit arrogant because class is a little easy. But which one do you want?
Right. Dr. Belongia, we could do this for another half an hour. I really have appreciated this conversation. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. That's Dr. Daniel Belangia as part of Arkansas Tech Week here on the Spotlight. More coming your way right after this. This is the Spotlight on Alathus Realty Live.